right there where we stood. A Miraculous Ladybug, Ladynoir, Fanfiction, Chapter 2. It's been a long time since he last saw her. So much so, it doesn't even feel like reality. He stares at her like the moment that he blinks, she's gonna disappear into thin air again. His hand reaches out to touch her hair, to touch her shoulder, for something to disprove that she's not a figment of his overactive imagination from missing her for all these years. He touches solid substance, her inky black hair running through his fingers like water. She's not a hallucination, and by God, he's never been happier. "I've missed you," Ladynoir blurts out, and his cheeks go red from embarrassment. He feels like a kid again. A kid who didn't know love and didn't know how to control his emotions. He's that kid again who saw a pretty and brilliant girl swinging across the city and crashed hard into love. Ladybug laughs and heals any scars in his heart. She's probably being hit with a wave of deja vu too. "I've missed you too," she says, her voice barely audible. Her arms wrap around her torso like a shield, and the reverent smile on Shot's face drops a little. Is she too scared to let him in again, or is she trying to protect herself from the world? He understands if it's the latter. The world is cruel, and he's learned that 10 times over at age 18. But it would break his heart if she was scared of letting him in, letting him be close to her once more. "It's been a while," she laughs. Shot smiles in a small way, because she doesn't even understand how much he misses her. She doesn't get how much he still misses her. Waking up in his small apartment is 100 times better than waking up in his enormous cage of a childhood bedroom. One would think he would enjoy the space his former home provided, enjoy the material things and expensive clothes he had been surrounded by. But in contrast, he loves the scratchy, cheap bed sheets that he sleeps on now. He loves the bright sunlight shining in the sheer window curtains, spilling into the cramped space he calls a bedroom. He loves everything about living in something that could actually be called a home. Life now is very different, and yet it is all the same. On the one hand, he's no longer walking down a long hallway to be served a gourmet breakfast made by chefs who have been training their entire lives to do just that. On the other, he gets to play music loudly as he just nearly burns his morning eggs and adds a little bit too much butter to the pan. That's all different, but for the better too. But sometimes he still does feel that loneliness that he had been swallowed in as a child. Sometimes the ghost of a feeling of reaching out still holds his grasp, and he misses something that he can't really put a finger on. Actually, he can, but it's hard to think about. It's always been hard to think about her. Sometimes those feelings can be locked away, and he spends his entire day with a smile on his face and joy with his students. On others, it's an ache he can't find relief from. It's ridiculous for him to still think about. He knows that because Chloe has chimed in his ears for so many years. But it's stuck. But against all logic, he still does miss her. He still thinks of her and her flowing hair and the midnight wind. He still thinks of her laugh as they sleepily stood above the world he adored. He still thinks about all those times he had as a kid. But he's not a kid now. Not anymore. So it is time to go to work. "So, you'll have 20 minutes to complete it," he says with a smile. Every one of his students is tired, and he is no exception. "Mr. Gress, does this need to be completed by the end of the day or before tomorrow?" his students ask. "Tomorrow." Every face lights up around the room. He plays some music and allows the students to work alone. He's been having an odd day, so he's been assigning worksheets for all of his classes. If he's not in the mood to teach, he usually settles for papers to grid later. There's something in the back of his mind that's anxiously preparing for nothing in particular. It's the same feeling he had a long time ago when Akuma attacks were at their all-time high. He hasn't missed that feeling, but it's back, and for no real reason. "Guys, look what she drew!" someone shouts out. His head raises, and his eyes glaze over to the top corner of the room. There's a cluster of students, the one in the middle sitting down, blushing madly. Suddenly, he's hit with a sense of deja vu. His class was like this in high school, only with a boy with long red hair rather than a short brown-haired girl. He's caught between crying and laughing. Instead, he smiles. "Oh my god, you're crazy talented." Everyone chimes in agreement. His student is stuttering. Again, he's reminded of his life as a kid and the other girl that he knew that stuttered nearly every second of the day. He makes his way through the crowd, not to reprimand them, like some of them thinks he will when they scramble back to their desks, but to see the drawing for himself. When he does, his heart aches. His heart aches because the drawing is so sweet and so beautiful and so realistic. He can see everything with sudden clarity. It's a small drawing of the nighttime sky with two figures, Ladybug and Ladynoir. It's been a while since he's seen a new piece of artwork of his past self, but when he sees his younger features, he wants to sob. Alas, he can't do that in front of his students. "What a beautiful drawing, Via," he says with a smile. Via only nods and squeaks out back, "Thank you, Mr. Agrest." His eyes move over to the page, to the girl he's never been completely over, never really wanted to be over it either. She looks just as lively and graphite as she looks in person. Or at least he assumes she looks this bright. She's been gone for a long time, and he misses her. He misses her a lot. God, no, this is not the time to start being sappy and reminiscent about the past. He shakes his head to clear his mind. "You should totally make a comic!" His students begin to clamor over Via's work again, and he smiles in pride. Via's a good student. Smart, quiet, very well behaved. He nods to his students when they all begin to pack up. It's only 4 minutes to the bell, but he'd also like the day to be over. It's chaos as everyone clamors to the door, waiting to bolt, and it's a miracle his eyes catch on when it does. Or maybe it's just fate giving him a better set of cards. Red. A bright red blur passes his window, and his head turns around so quickly, it's surprising he didn't get whiplash. For a second he thinks that it's just a hopeful dream, but then the blur passes by again, and there's no mistaking the suit he's seen a million times over, and that perfect black hair that's always tickled his senses. It's her. She's back. "Can we leave now?" "Yeah, just walk." "Yeah, we'll just walk super slow so you won't get in trouble for letting us out early." "Please." He waves his arms half-heartedly, and they all scramble out the door. He practically leaps to the window and stares out, much like he did many years before. She's back in town, and it's not a hallucination. How is this even possible? His nose is pressed to the glass, and his glasses are bumping into his eyes. God, he's a child again, waiting for her to see him and smile. He still remembers those days of smiling every time a red blur passed, though he never really found out where she lived. Her house must have been past his, because every single night, as he got ready for bed, he'd see her pass by in the wind like a magical beam. He'd smile and fall asleep with a sweet dream. Plag would often cackle at how sappy he was. He's still sappy now, especially right now. His entire being feels like it's on fire, but not in a bad way. His heart is racing and beating hard like a drum. He's always been a little impulsive, a little incited, and a little out of control when it comes to her, so all he does now is do a quick little turnaround to make sure no one is around before he transforms into someone he hasn't been in a long time. He transforms to go find someone he hasn't seen in a very long time, and dear Lord, he is not letting her slip away again. Shot takes off like a rocket, catapulting in the air. His super hearing is picking up on all the little shouts and gasps as the passbyers are letting out. It's been years since they last saw Ladybug, much less Shot Noir. Today must have been like a day in Wonderland for all the civilians who lived through those years of Akuma chaos and then sudden normalcy. His eyes are trained on the red suit, the red blur, the girl in red he never stopped thinking about, and now that unrequited love is paying off because she's here and he's gonna go get her. Her laughter still sounds like stardust. It sounds dumb, but maybe it's because Shot's a poet at heart. Or maybe he's just stupid in love. Probably that. How long have you been here? He asks, pulling away just a little bit. He still wants to look at her. He still wants to prove to himself that this is the real Ladybug here. Not that long, honestly, she admits, looking shy. A day or two? I've been visiting friends and family. There's still people that I've yet to see. He nods. Makes sense. There's an awkward silence between them, one that hasn't existed for a long time. He gazes at her and she glances back. There's so much that he wants to say to her. There's so much he has to tell her, but no longer knows how to. He no longer knows how to ramble on endlessly to her, because he can barely register that she's back, for at least a little bit. The silence also serves to remind him of how much they actually have to talk about, how they need to talk about them and the past them. He knows it's on her mind, even though he can read. Even now he can read her in a flash, but he doesn't blame her for not knowing what words to start with. It's terrifying, and he doesn't know if it'd be smart to take the first leap so soon. It'd be much more rational to let her settle in, let her remember what it was like to be in his company, before admitting his ever-present love for her in the hopes that she may love him back. But for better or for worse, he's never been that rational. He's always been a bit excited, so his mouth opens and his breath is coming out and the words are about to spill over and he's about to lay it all on the line for her when I saw the park. It's a lot different than I last remember. The moment is over and the door closes in his face. Chat Noir shoves those words down and allows the conversation that they so desperately need to have to skip over to the next, unimportant one. A part of him wonders if she spoke to avoid the conversation. A portion of him thinks that it may ring true. Yeah, they redid it recently, and it was so trippy to go back there, he admits. I was so used to seeing so few statues of us that when they made the new commemorations, I had no idea what to do whenever I was there. Shot laughs. Ladybug smiles. Everywhere I turned, it was like looking in a mirror. My friend brought me over there, and I could barely hide the fact that I was staring at a bunch of me's from them. Ladybug hums with a smile. They do look nice, even if that's not what I look like now. Oh, definitely. I'm not that young anymore. They used our 16-year-old copies. Definitely not up to date, he jokes. Maybe we should give them a better reference picture, Ladybug teases, nudging his side with her elbow. I'm sure there's hordes of photographers down beneath us. Maybe they'll take a picture for the new sculptures. Really get down the accuracy to the finest of lines. Her eyes crease and twinkle, and something swells into a wave in Shot's chest. Are you calling me old? He shoots back, eyebrows raised. Ladybug cocks her head to the side. You're the one interpreting it. You're implying it. They're both smiling because of how familiar this all feels. She's the only one who ever really knew how to snap back at him at lightning speed. Maybe they aren't so young anymore. Maybe the statues are out of date, but he feels 15, 16, 17 years old again. And it's honestly more fun than he's had in a really long time. I mean, if I'm calling you old, then I'm technically old too. We're only 4 months apart, right? Ladybug admits with a cheeky smile. Shot rolls his eyes. In truth, it warmed his heart that she still remembers his birthday, even though it's been years since they last saw each other. We're not even that old, he points out. Not even 30 years. Not even 30 yet. Well, not you, she retorts, and Shot can't help but the laughter that escapes his chest. When he looks back at Ladybug, she has a massive grin on her face, as if she's pleased to make him laugh again, like that. It tugs at his heart. He used to see that look on her face a lot, especially when it was a late night patrol turned sort of date-like situation. Touché. There's another break in the conversation. Shaw takes the slightly awkward time to look at her. She blushes when she notices his gaze. The pink dusting her cheeks only serves to make her look even more adorable in his eyes. She diverts her attention to the ground below them, and there's just something so familiar about the motion, it almost hurts him on the inside. Ladybug's mouth opens, and something's about to escape them. Alas, they stay in silence when she backs out. Shot unconsciously sighs. Years ago, she had a quip ready for them, but now they're not even sure what they can say. Why are you looking at me? Ladybug asks after she catches him staring for the third time. He never did shift his eyes away, even when she tried to push his face away. Is it a crime? Shot says innocently. No, Ladybug laughs. But that's not the point. Stop looking at me. There's a smile on her face that contradicts her words. And what if I don't? Shot says with a cheeky smile. What are you going to do about it? I'll throw you off this roof. Will you? Whatever rebuttal she had planned, she never spoke it into existence. No, Ladybug admits with a shy smile and laugh. I would not. I knew you loved me, Shot says. And there's a grin on his face, because Ladybug doesn't laugh like it's a joke, she doesn't jump like it's a shock, and she doesn't panic like it's an accusation. She only looks down to the ground and smiles in a cute way and looks back up. She loves him. He knows it, even if she never really says it. Ladynoir takes in a breath to speak. Ladybug does the same. Oh, no, sorry, you can... It's, you first. Something in his chest howls in pain because they've never been this awkward and nervous before. He smiles and motions for her to speak first. It's all uncomfortable, and he just wants to squeeze his eyes tight and pretend that this isn't happening, that Ladynoir and Ladybug aren't out of sync. I probably have to go, Ladybug says with a sigh. But I'm glad we got to see each other again. She puts a little smile on her face, and he copies it. Would I... Do you think I'll see you soon? She bites her lower lip nervously. If it was up to him, he'd see her the next hour, and then the hour after that, and then the one after that. But that's not how life works, especially not his. Instead, Shot nods, putting on a bright expression on his face to make up for her downtrodden one. Yeah, I'll stop by the park on Sunday night, he says. Great, me too. It hurts that he'll have to wait days before he can see her again, but that is how life works now. No more of the times where he can just jump across town to the Eiffel Tower to find her each night. They aren't those kids anymore, but they are adults, and if this is how they manage to make it work, then if this is the only way he'll be able to see her, then so be it.